I'm Aaron Jack. This is the Freedom Tapestry Project. Welcome. We're going to be on today with John Black, and as always, check-in from Ben in a second. So, Freedom. Check me out at Aaron Jack Line Art. I've got interviews, conversations, portraits of artists every Tuesday. So, today, a beautiful portrait of an amazing abstract artist. So, welcome on with Ben here in a second as we are alive in this moment.
Oh,
live.
Cheers.
Live.
Cheers.
Alive.
My Bob's Big Boy cup.
Oh.
Classic.
Oh. The classic.
It's a classic. You know, when you can't go to Bob's all the time, you got to have it at home. Have that delicious coffee in the morning. I got my Batman robe on.
Nice.
Getting in the moment.
Get in the moment. Yeah. Throwing out all those bat things, all the bat things.
Yeah, right? I mean, thank goodness this isn't like where we have to worry about merchandising and licensing and, we have to blur it out.
Right.
Can't see it. Also, too, this is probably blasphemy being, writing now for Marvel and such. I'm rocking DC. Now it's all good.
I feel like we can all just enjoy each other's work. I think that's what it's about,
I agree wholeheartedly. I think, at the end of the day, as creatives, it doesn't matter exactly where we, as long as we're getting it out there, as long as the people we're working with are good. And I think, the cool thing is with comics and such, with that, it's every, company kind of has a different, feel to it. I mean, Marvel is a lot more of this kind of colorful, big, family world, normal people, things like that. And DC's kind of got a different vibe. It's a little darker, not getting into all the specifics, but anyway, it's your cup of tea. If you want to write something, more Batman-esque.
Yeah. How's your Werewolf by Night going?
Really well. Our issue 1, from what I understand, is doing well. I popped by a comic shop yesterday. I mean, most of the shops have been actually sold out of our issue 1. It's very, been hard to come by in some places. Which is always exciting. And we got issue 2 coming out next week. So that comes out next Wednesday. It's a 4-issue miniseries starting off our world of Werewolf by Night. Hopefully it will go to a much longer series. Another little bit of exciting news that came out yesterday that I can talk about. So Ingenious Voices #1 hit the stands. So Marvel's doing, what's really cool about Marvel and what they're doing right now is they're doing these anthologies that are, elevating BIPOC. I didn't really even know what I was one day I was what does BIPOC even stand for? I always think of it as, multiculturalism and, as we call it, the mosaic of artists and creativity. But Indigenous Voices #1 is all, Native American writers and using Native American characters in storytelling. And there's 4 different stories in the issue. It was put together by an amazing artist that we worked with, Jeffrey Varagi. We worked with Jeffrey on Marvel 1000, and then he worked with us in Werewolf by Night. He did one of the variants. But it's really cool because Jeffrey, who's this really wonderful line artist. It'd be great if we could get him on here sometime. I'll ask him if you.
Yeah, let's get him on.
He's
also
amazing.
Get the people who were working on Masters of the Sun on here. Let's get a couple more of those people.
Well, Masters of the Sun, I mean, that's kind of all scattered to the winds, and I haven't really been very much involved with that. That was really Will's project. I mean, I've kind of gone off, doing with what we're doing with Tab, me and Tab's company.
Right. It's a different project. I'm just thinking it might be cool to have some of those people, have some of the Werewolf by Night people, have.
Well, yeah, I mean, what was different? I mean, just kind of giving the backstory on that. So, Werewolf by Night is actually a Marvel project. Master of the Sun wasn't.
Right.
Master of the Sun was it was kind of in-house at Will's studio. I then was put on that project, and then now, no longer working on that project. It's still in-house over at his place. Yeah. Marvel being what it is, you know, we're in the Marvel space. We're signed
You're
to
in the
Marvel.
Marvel space. Well, let's get
Yeah,
people
so it's
on
a
from the
very
Marvel space. Let's do Marvel. Let's
yeah,
talk about.
no, so that's something I can absolutely look to bring in. You know, so in that book, you know, we're doing a round table next week with the Illuminatives.
Okay.
Illuminatives is an amazing website. You should and Instagram. You should follow it. Everybody go follow Illuminatives. It's, you know, a lot of it's focused on Native Americans in politics and things like that. It does a lot more on the social side. But what we're getting into with, you know, with this roundtable that we're going to be doing, it's going to be more about Native Americans in, you know, the arts and creativity and kind of bridging between the worlds of what we, you know, have as pop culture and what, you know, Native American storytelling and you know, culture and ideologies, how to put these, you know, worlds together and how to make them, you know, inclusive and, you know, not make them other. And I think that's really been a big thing that's going on. And again, I cannot speak in any way on this other than I have been blessed to come along this journey through Taboo, but I am no authority on it. But there's some really amazing artists in that space. This guy Bunky Echo Hawk, and obviously Jeffrey Varagi. And Jeffrey was the one who put together this Indigenous Voices with Sarah Brunstad. And Sarah is also now editing with us, and I can make this announcement because it came out in the back of Indigenous Voices. We wrote an afterword in the back of the book, and it announced that we're going to be doing a new series called Kashala. So we are now signed on another book with Marvel that will be coming out in 2021. I can't say much more about that on here.
Can you read us a page from Werewolf by Night?
I can. I have to find it.
Yeah. Let's listen to a page and then we'll bring on John.
Sure. Give me
all right. That's our our page of the day. Hey Henrietta. Who else? Say hi. Say hi in the chat. Give me some emojis. Some like hearts and stars.
All right. So
maybe
here
some
we
horseshoes. Who knows?
So by the way, this is the cover, the variant cover to Indigenous Voices that came out yesterday. This is Kashala in the middle. You can see here, this is Jeffrey Varagi's artwork. As you can see, it's very, you know, a traditional style, but really just very colorful and you know, connecting these pop culture characters with native style. So, and this is Werewolf by Night, #1, main cover. You can see Jake Gomez, our main character, and then we have our wonderful werewolf in the back.
Who is that based off of?
So this is a fun little area, you know, because again, like obviously there's big Marvel stuff happening. There's characters, there's monsters, there's creatures. You know, we've got werewolves attacking and all sorts of fun stuff. But you know, one of the fun pages that I had was, I love writing these kinds of moments. You know, when we write these moments about you know, just kind of normal everyday life. You know, we start off with werewolf. And here we are now in Walmart, you know, going to pick up some Drano because as a werewolf, he's, you know, he sheds a bit sometimes, you know, if he's taking a shower at night, he gets a little werewolfy.
Right.
So, you know, we start this one off with our hero, Jake Gomez, saying, you know, I mean, come on, really, who buys a freaking X? Oh, this is Molly's. My apologies. I mean, come on, really, who buys a freaking Xbox, a Y box? I forgot. They had to change it. A Y box at 6 a.m. This is exactly what's wrong with the world. Maybe his broke last night. Maybe he's surprising his kid before he wakes up so they can play some Madden or whatever. Or they could just go outside and throw a football. That's Molly, obviously. I should probably do different voices. Have you ever read the ingredients in this crap? Perchloroethylene. I saw on YouTube this stuff will mess up your brain. Do we always have to go down these rabbit holes wherever we go? Oh, and by the way, it's freaking 6 a.m. We can do something about it. More than just scaring jerkholes who shoot guns on Reslands. You're a super monster. I'm not doing it. We've already talked about this a million times. Come on. Light Pharmaceuticals is a cover. What's with all the security? Their own private military contractors? We can do it. I'm not breaking into my job. So there's you know, our hero Jake Gomez basically telling his best friend Molly that he doesn't want to break into his work. even though she thinks that there's something fishy going on, which obviously there is. And more on that. So go
More
pick it
on
up.
that another time.
Yeah, it's fun, man. I mean, I always find, when we can balance between the mundane and the supernatural, it gives us an opportunity to kind of, feel that we're a part of that world and really kind of world build into a space that, we can connect to the characters. And I think that's always...
So here's my question. How can the fans of Freedom Tapestry Project get a signed copy by you?
A signed copy. We had done a bunch of signed copy orders through Collector's Paradise. So if you look up signed copies, I know Ed Greenberg was selling packages. I'm not sure if he's still selling them. We signed a bunch for him, and we're going to do it every month. So we go over to his shop, we sign a bunch, and then he ships them out to wherever anyone wants to get them. So that's kind of how we've been doing it. We don't have, I ordered a personal amount, and obviously I've given them to my parents and some, friends, obviously, in the area. But I would say go to Collector's Paradise and pick up, pick those up through Ed Greenberg. And, unless you see me, I'll sign it for you if you
right. Or you want a personally signed copy, send you a Venmo.
Yeah, send me a Venmo and buy a copy and send me the book and I'll sign it for you. I'll get Tab, we're doing our next signing at the shop. But anyway, there you go. Indigenous Voices #1 came out yesterday. Go check it out. Amazing artwork, amazing stories. Werewolf by Night issue 2 comes out next week. This is, I appreciate, I never, I hate being, hey, I'm coming on here to pitch my stuff. But, but we've got a lot of fun stuff. And I think that, we're really excited to share these things. And I think it's really amazing seeing, a company like Marvel, building native voices in such a way. And I am just really grateful to be, token white dude on the journey, No, honestly, it's really cool and I'm really grateful. So anyway, let's get John on here.
Yeah, let's get John on here. I'll catch you in a minute.
Thanks for letting me share.
Yeah. Peace.
Later.
All right.
Bye.
So Saturday, I'm going to be interviewed by Sandra Felly Art. And then Tuesday, I've got at least one more amazing artist that's going to be on my Instagram, Aaron Jack Line Art. So go follow me, and then you'll see the interview with me, and then you'll see the interview of me and my art, because I've been working on some stuff lately. And then we'll get on with, we'll see life as it happens. That's what we're here for, right? See life as it happens. Hey.
Hey, sorry.
There you go.
I apologize.
No, what's the... You have nothing to apologize for.
I'm not sure if I came in the right time.
You came in at the perfect time.
Awesome. Excellent. That's super cool that the comic book, I had no idea how, the process. I've never really read too many comic books. I feel like I know a little bit about it, but not a reader, maybe from an artistic background, I guess, of some sort.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, but I find the format super interesting.
Yeah, totally. I think it's crazy how it's very captivating. But I was also like that before I knew about Broadway. And then I went to a Broadway play and I was crying, it was so intense.
I understand.
So I guess if I got into it, I'd probably have a little more idea, but yeah, I respect it totally.
Cool. Do you have a favorite Broadway play since you mentioned it?
Not
you
really.
Don't have to stick with one. I don't.
No, I see the one that really I watched Mountaintop, which it's a 2-person play. Angela Bassett and Samuel L. Jackson playing Martin Luther King and Martin Luther King's wife. It was pretty intense. But yeah, that was the only one I really got to see that was extremely impactful in that way. My uncle came and actually took me to Broadway, so it was pretty cool to share that with him because he's actually professor theater at University of Ohio. So he used to be here for 15 years and work on Broadway. So he came and, he introduced me to it. It was pretty great. Haven't been back yet, and not sure when I'll ever get to go back now with everything kind of going on.
Yeah, it's a bit of a crazy world. How have you
It's
been?
crazy.
And you're in New York City. You're right in the middle of Manhattan right now, right?
Yeah, it's pretty intense. I mean, everything's for now. It's like because the first shutdown was like it was crazy, just because like you're not for anything, but I was like also one of these people that were like, oh, like 2020 is going to be the year, and not for anything. I was like doing pretty well, like at the end of 2019, so I was kind of like cool about it. And then, yeah, it just happened like around that March. And then, so, people didn't know what to do kind of phase for a long time, which caused a weird, like, kind of little speed bump in the way that New York usually kind of gets around. But then it went into like kind of full panic when the shutdowns and stuff started happening. And I guess people started like, if you could, people were fleeing the city. Restaurants are shut down. And this is like going right into spring where people are like, I mean, the most important, I guess for me personally, important time of the year to live in New York is like spring. It's like super good. But yeah, so I guess now we're like on a second wave. So it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's a day by day process, which is tough for some people.
Right, because it's like it just keeps going, right? It's just
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I actually left New York in June, just because I was kind of like with everything going on, and not for anything, but like just a mix of not just the corona, but as you know, like all the movements and stuff that are going on. And then they like, for the first time since 1943, like, had a mandatory curfew. And not for, but for me, it just was a little like, all right, let me get out of here for a little bit, just because I'm not actually from here. And like, I love New York, but I still don't want to be trapped on an island. You know what I mean? I'd rather be in the woods where I'm from and just kind of chilling. So that's pretty much what I did. I bought a bus. So the last 6 months, actually, since I left in June, I've converted a bus into a tiny home, which is going to be like a new studio. So then actually I will be traveling already wherever. I pretty much live a nomadic life. I mean, currently in an apartment or in a hotel with my dog and girlfriend. So yeah, it's like, uh, it's ever changing, but it's adaptable, I guess.
yeah, come back for like a little for some meetings or something, and then
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty
yeah,
much what happened is like, I had gotten the opportunity to show in January, which was kind of pushed back. But so then I just actually came to New York for the month of November into early December, in a studio space to just work on this show. So now I'm actually just here in transit, really. My bus is still back down south, so I'll pretty much finish this show, and then I'll be back on the bus and hopefully set out to travel into the show in January until I have to come back and like check it out.
wow, that's awesome. Do you have any?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have your laptop by you, but I'd love to see this bus.
Oh
We
man,
go to
yeah. I
check
definitely
out this
will, baby. Can
bus.
you pull up my MCLIV thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a Ford 350 Power Stroke diesel. It's a 12-person passenger van. When I initially got it, it had like all the seats, had the wheelchair lift and everything in it. So actually in New York where I bought it, like on the side streets, we sawed off the wheelchair lift, pulled out everything, gutted it, which was pretty cool. Um, then we just started ripping it. And then I actually drove it to West Virginia where I have friends that are like welders and carpenters, like tradesmen is like what it is down there. And it's just a way of life also. Like we call them good old boys. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but anyhow, so now we gutted it all. We pulled all the metal off the base. I mean, we rebuilt, welded the metal on the bottom, sealed it. Then we laid an 1.5 inch plywood down, sealed it, insulation, sealed it, and then we've also laid a black oak wooden floor in there, which is actually pretty. I mean, everyone does like the bus, but the real wood floor is pretty unique. So it's coming along. If you can see this photo.
Oh yeah, wow. That's inside the bus?
Yeah, so this
Holy.
is so let's see.
Looks like your new business.
Yeah, so that's like a bed, right? It's a like a very large sofa bed, but it actually pulls out to here as a queen bed. This with the stripes here is my shower and wet room. So yeah, so it's full shower here. And then there's a kitchen set up here with chair and tons of storage. But it's ideal because it is going to be doubled as a studio as well. So I have like, for instance, I have like a portable easel that it's like 10 by 10 foot and it breaks down. It'll be able to go in, and then wherever I am, I can just pop it out, throw some canvas up, paint for the day and like outside, which is like what I've really been interested in the last few years is like painting and just outside, it's just, I don't know,
Yeah,
something
some
about
like
it.
plein air
Yes.
kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it only makes sense to like do the two. And that's why it's like the MCLIV studio is just basically an idea of like wherever I am, I'd like to try to create. And everywhere is kind of like a chance to be in a new studio. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
you don't feel so confined to like a four-wall white room thing.
that's
Um,
so awesome.
so now it's like the bus. So like where I am now in New York is now the studio, the MCLIV studio. When I go back in like, 3 weeks, then wherever I am there will be there. So it's just a constant evolution to keep the creative juices like flowing, I guess, for me personally.
Wow. So what now that you've lived in there for a little bit, right?
Actually, not really. I mean, the whole interior has been like because I had some motor issues,
Oh,
right?
really?
Which
Okay.
which were kind of like the hardest. But so I was not running for like 3 months, right? So which was fine because it allowed me to like seriously tap into the interior. I'm a huge fan of architecture, and so like, but I'm also like, as in construction, they call like I'm green, meaning that, I'm just learning how to read a tape measure and all these things, welding, carpentry,
Were
So
you welding in this project, or did you get other people do? I mean, I know how to
I
weld, but like,
no, I mean literally, personally, I welded nothing.
okay.
Um, but I did watch. I tried to take in as much as I could, and I mean, it was open for me to be able to weld. It was just, I almost didn't really.
Yeah.
It's kind of like me giving a tattoo, which I've done. I mean, I'm just pretty shaky, and I don't know. I didn't
You
weld,
don't need
but
to risk it.
nah, I feel like I was there for the process. It's one of those things I kind of just felt like, yeah.
So,
So,
so you know the people in order to get the work done.
right. Well, I mean, everything but the welding. I would
Okay.
like to say that I had full hands on, full days, as long as, because there's only one other person like kind of helping me. It's a friend of mine, Jason. He used to build log cabins and things. He has an architectural, sorry, and he has an architect. He was an architect, but he has a bachelor's, so it was pretty nice to work with him, kind of learn some things, but just basic things. The nice thing about doing the bus build outs are that it's 110% customizable to your liking. So even if you're not the best and corners aren't always like the sharpest, I mean, for me, I'm like super pumped on it. I mean, it's like, I think it's like one of the best fucking things. Ooh, sorry, I don't know.
No, I
But
don't.
okay, cool.
We're
I
not.
don't know.
If
I don't.
we replay this, we'll beep it out. Maybe. Maybe
Yeah,
not.
sure. I mean, but I think it's dope. I'm itching to travel. So like the whole entire bus is like ready and it's sound and it's just ready to go. So basically this show is putting a little offset, but in a good direction. Then I'm just back down there after this and then back here in January. So with the
Wow.
van, living in the van somewhere throughout New York, someplace.
Wow, I hope you post from that on your Instagram.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's why I've been trying to kind of tap into like a more doing like YouTube or something, just because I don't know. I'm not really that progressive with putting myself out there in terms, I guess, but it's a good reason and excuse to like have some like day-to-day kind of documentary like documentation of what's going on.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Henrietta's like, I want to see the art. We've
Sure.
got people from all over, so there
Awesome.
we go.
Cool.
Yeah,
let me put you down.
How do you do this kind of stuff in the van?
Oh, well, I mean, these works weren't made in the van.
Okay. How would you do it? Would you do this kind of work in a van, or would you switch up your style?
I would probably do the same. Like I said, I would probably use the easel.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that pulls out 10 by 10, and then I would work outside. Inside, actually, I wouldn't be able to. This work is actually about like, I don't know, it's like 2 by 2 meters, so roughly like framed, it's like 6 by 6 feet, 6 square or something.
Wow.
But yeah, I really like this one. I guess this work was also created in Copenhagen. I actually lived there in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I had a studio with Adorno Design. It's an international sustainable interior design, like very creative, very like, again, sustainable, hence Denmark being like the most sustainable country on the planet, right? So I guess even being there, these works were like completely different, new technique, I guess, definitely new scale. And so, yeah, I really like these works. It's probably one of the only ones that I've done black and white thus far. That I really enjoy. Yeah.
Wow. What got you over to you said wait, you were in Denmark, right?
Yeah,
Was
in
that okay?
Copenhagen.
I just wanted to make sure that I heard that right. I was like, did I hear that right? Yeah.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
got you over there?
Actually, my girlfriend's Danish.
Okay, cool.
So, I actually went over, and I was a chef like ages and ages ago. But I actually kind of tapped back into that and did like a food program in Copenhagen alongside with creating the art in the studio there. So it was nice. I had an off-site job as a cook there, just kind of trying to um, basically like show a little bit of Americanized culinary stuff, and then vice versa, getting to take in, a lot of Danish dishes and the way the kitchens and the sustainability works there. So it was a good give and take.
Very cool. So I have a question back on the van because I'm
Totally.
kind of obsessed with this shit.
Sure, man.
What would you do differently if you had to do it again? What would you do differently, and what would you say that you just like? You're like, wow, like I did that right.
Shit, man. I don't know, because honestly, like, I don't know. I mean, besides like some of the minor things, like some places I wish I would have like used a nail gun instead of screws, right? But like overall, like aesthetically, it's exactly like what I kind of pictured. I mean, I think that I would have probably saved a lot more money because I would know a lot more now. I maybe did like, I don't know, 3,000 trips to Home Depot, within like a 5-month span, which some of that stuff, a lot of stuff I bought, I ended up using on other projects that it wasn't even naturally meant for, just because I had it laying around. So, yeah, besides that, I think pretty much everything's pretty cool for me. I've yet to hit the road. So, once I hit the road, it's a whole other thing. Right now, it's just a stationary box. So
Right,
once you
it's your little studio outside.
Sure. And once you get on the road, I suppose like you're going to start to experience other things, and then other issues will probably open up. But again, nobody in that culture goes without, wishing that they did. So I guess that's always something that comes with it. But for the most part, I'm pretty confident with it. I'm into it.
Wow. And so that was like how many months were you working on that?
I bought it in May, and then I had it here June and August. And then I drove it to my mom's house in West Virginia, which was super cool because versus here is like obviously crazy to be like trying to work on a bus in New York City someplace. So down there was really nice, but yeah, I don't know. I guess getting on the road would make a lot different. So I'm hopeful.
Wow. So it's definitely like go to a place, work on it, like get it together.
Yeah, and ideally I'll be working on it everywhere I go to travel, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like the rule of thumb, right? Like it's never done.
Mm.
So there's always something to do. There's always something to like update. There's always something to make better, because it is again an idea of sustainable living. To the most part, it's the less footprint you could leave is like living in one of those things, and just sitting somewhere, right? You're running solar power. Your water's usually kind of like really regulated. So yeah, and you get to see nature and stuff. So, and as a working creative, there's a ways to like, why not? The
Why
world's too
not?
like, the world's like too weird to stay in one place. So I'm not going to try and do that for anytime soon in the near future. I try to be as go as I can.
How are you gonna like put those canvases back in the van?
Yeah, those canvases would probably just be on rolls on raw canvas,
Okay.
and then sent out to be framed. Or if the buy, some people want to frame them themselves because the shipping's so intense. So you just send 80% of paintings go rolled up anyway.
Right. So
Unless
you're
it's a
just
gal,
gonna do
unless
it
it's
like
like
free
a, unless
form.
it's like in a, yeah, unless it's in a presentation situation in gallery or something, and you can literally take it off the wall and go home with it, or something like that. It's in New York, someone's here, you can do it, but global stuff, and that's the idea is like to paint and then kind of, build a little bit of, um, like not like any sort of fan base or anything, but maybe like a new little collectors, and even not to be able to do things as grand because the pandemic and the shutdown, like I'm in New York also, remember, like, so like when there was a serious shutdown, you're in like this, naturally, most people are in a smaller apartment, right? Like, or like a smaller room rather. So I had to learn to kind of work small because I actually forfeited my studio in Jersey at the time because A, I wasn't going to try to take public transportation, and B, it's like it was an extra $1,000 on top of my already like $1,200 apartment room rent, right? So it's like, shit, I don't know what's going on, so let me forfeit that. So I mean, it was just natural, I guess. So now I've been able to work smaller. I once considered myself like a large scale painter, which is super nice, and I still am. But at the same time, the shutdowns like allowed me to understand and respect the smaller works again, for sure. So inside the van, I can paint like on one emergency door that opens on the side. It's 4 by 3 feet, so I can still do like framed smaller but bigger canvas. The whole idea of the layout of the bus is so you can lay artwork and you can show artwork, because at some point in time when I pull up to random cities, then I can hang the artwork. The whole van turns modular, so it doesn't even really look lived out of, and I can put those smaller works in through it. So I can actually have like a one person at a time gallery, walk up in the front of the bus and walk right out the back,
Wow.
and
I've seen
see
some
little
cool
work.
stuff
So
with like outside, like right, like hanging on the outside of the bus.
yeah, again, it's the ideas and um, it's limitless on what you could do. And that's like, why not? It's a perfect world for me as a creative. It's hand in hand, I guess.
Oh, it's beautiful. What's happening here
Thanks.
in this painting?
Oh, that painting. It's a little zoomed in, but that is from a series literally right before the shutdown. That was the last work that I did in my studio in Jersey at Man and Contemporary. I was there, and that was like the last series right before. But that work was like a little more dialed down. Like I said, the other stuff was a little bigger. This was like on the 48 by 60s stretch canvas. It's a series of 1 of 6. But you know, it was like a study of like my placement within the technique. You know, like if you see in those works, there's more of like projectile type motions. You know, so a lot of the work is just always studies. So going through it, but this was like the beginning of that series there. I love that series, actually. It's a super nice painting. It's no longer with me, but it is a
Got
great
sold?
painting. Yeah, that's gone. Yeah.
Well, congrats.
Yeah, thanks. It feels like that's ages ago, but really wasn't. Oh, cool. That's pretty sweet. That's one of my favorite paintings, actually. It's crazy. It's like, I don't know. The motion is, I don't know. I mean, I really felt these works. This is also part of like the same era as the Copenhagen studio. I don't know if it was like because I started using like all different paints, right? Because I'm like shopping in a Danish, store and using Danish product, and not that everything's not different, but also everything's not the same. So I guess, and just being in a new environment, right? Like, kind of tapped into some things. So this was like actually the start of, a lot of color theory as well for me. That's the top 3 importance of the work for me, I guess, is the color, right? Like, I mean, visually, it is what it is, but not, it's about the colors, like just mapping to each other and energy and vibing together where they're supposed to be to make me feel okay, right? So, yeah. And this is from the second painting, the blue one, pre-Corona series, if you will, which is no longer with me as well. But it's also from that same series, and the 48 by 60s. I really like those. In that gallery for like 1 year, and then they were finally like, "Oh, we'll put a piece in our group show," and I was like, "Yeah!" And then like 2 months later, it was like super pandemic. So, and then the gallery eventually is closed now, unfortunately. But yeah, so yeah, that one's bittersweet, I guess.
Wow, that's tough when it's like things are closing down, they're opening up, it's like what
Yeah,
now, right?
yeah. I mean, it is. It's just I guess like work wise, it makes things a little more like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes there's pros and cons to being like an artist, right? Like, cool. There's pros to it because like you're creative, so you're already some sort of introvert, right? You're used to time alone. You may even prefer it, but like the cons of that may be like space and like inspiration, right? Going out and being within the city, and I mean, not say you can't do that, but like at a point there was no doing that. We were like, I mean, for me, I was a little scared. I lived with a good friend of mine that also has like a 2-year-old daughter. So, I mean, we weren't scared, but we were like precautious. I mean, as much as I am today, but even more so with living with a kid, right? So, yeah. Oh, this is also Copenhagen days. This one's like kind of, it was like, I guess one of the paintings that I kind of grew to. It was like one of those mistakes that kind of went good because I spent so much time on the painting underneath it, right? For like, a long time, and right up until like it was ready to like even be shown at the exhibition that I had in Copenhagen. I actually just kind of, I just pulled all that white over um, last minute. I don't know. It was like, but once I did that, it was just kind of like, I remember that very much because it's the only one that I've kind of had that like, that very last minute, like just so uncertain and enough time to let the paint dry, even if, and before I was like showing it. So yeah, that one's pretty special. Still available.
Where can they get it?
I mean, I guess it always is. I'm like kind of a self kind of guy. Just can always write me, on
DM you?
Instagram. Yeah, DMing is pretty much, however, that works the best for me. I have a website though. It's just updating and things like that have been a little tough lately. And I'm not that technically like inclined either. My kid's 12 and he knows like way more about things than me. So it's like I'm a little outdated on that, but carrying on. Whoa. Yeah, cool. That one's awesome. Or that was like, I think that I remember that was the second piece. This is actually work where still, this is like another breakthrough piece for me as well because I actually introduced like a different medium. So the green and the purples are, that's like a spray paint, right? So like I always felt good about spray paint, but I never really like tried the transition and the crossover from what I was doing, and then to maybe say like something that's on the street or something, right? So I guess kind of like I don't know, it was kind of something I wanted to kind of test out, and I had been trying around with it, but then it was always on smaller scales, right? So I was kind of like practicing, right? So like on a smaller canvas, maybe like 10 by 10 or something, throwing a little line of paint, the spray paint, letting it dry, kind of just using my technique and whatnot. But it wasn't until I put it on a larger scale that it was eligible to be more like kind of come through and be more vibrant and more like there, but still kind of be the first layer and the first indicator of what is about to happen. Basically, laying down, actually, it becomes like a map, right? So it's like that's what was nice about using it because naturally I don't, and the process of making the work is never mapped out, right? So like I don't really, I never have any sort of idea, hence the abstraction, but it's also still completely dialed in. I mean, every strike, say for instance on this painting, I can almost recall. Um, to be completely honest, it's because it's like it's a thing from like inside me projected there, right? So I have to feel like it's right. So all the work, especially this, is based on balance. Um, and it's just like my life, I guess, trying to like convey a balance, but it's never perfect. I don't think I'm a believer in perfection. So it's kind of like trying to make the most perfect thing without, all the any measuring or any sort of things like that. Just kind of intuition. Ooh, okay. Man, that's a whole different series right there. Man, these works actually are heavily inspired by like Danish culture for sure. I mean, I think it's just like more of a bliss, like kind of a calming down. These works were made after the series of the large paintings in Copenhagen. So I think it was kind of like just let me relax a little and just try to like dial in on something just a little more simplistic and see the techniques like closer. So they became like active studies that I mean, I tend not to like, I don't want to sound like not traditional, but going, it's difficult to like consider things a study in these kind of works with the forms and things, because you kind of have to go all in. You know, you can't really like kind of just like throw it around and then see what the result is, whether you agree with it or not. You have to like straight up be like, I'm ready to paint. Like I'm gonna let everything out. You've got music on. It's that Zen, right? So that's the whole reason, is the therapeutic idea behind it. And these works really show that. I feel like if you look at that, I think it's a sense of like tranquility. I mean, it's soothing to me anyway. Even with like the harsh blacks, it's just still like comforting. So yeah, that's about that one.
So you're talking about like the maps inside of yourself. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think, well, like mapping things out. So like, I guess it always starts back to when you're like, when I was a kid, right? So it's like, I feel like the more knowledge I know about anything, right, the safer I am to like get through life, right? Because like anything that I come across, I should have some prior knowledge of it, right? It's kind of like a Slumdog Millionaire kind of effect, right? Like when he's in the game, and it's not that he's like super smart, he just remembers these experiences and it led him through that game, right? So in a sense, it's almost in that kind of same way where like you just map things out and try to like, treat everyone right on your way, and try to just like do the things that you're supposed to do, I guess, and always have your best interest, and like, have self-esteem, but like just make sure that you're not crossing the barriers with people, right? Because then that throws you off the map. So, and a trajectory that's like, I don't know. Yeah, it's nice, I guess, when you can kind of see a path, because I've been lost without one before, right? So like now that I'm not solidified in nothing, even just having like a path, a map is like, makes me feel like a minor success, I guess. Like you're like pushing towards the right place instead of just being like, shit, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, right? And not making excuses is like a big one, I guess. So the map doesn't allow like excuses to like pop off. You kind of got to like, you have to get over those. You have to get over those like hurdles, because the map's not just flat, right? It's got like mountains and fucking rivers and hills and everything, just like as though you were traveling in a bus across the country, I guess, right?
Wow. Do you feel like you might put one up in your bus?
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
as like here's my map.
yeah, I mean, there's one in there now. There's one in there now, so we'll see where it takes me.
Right? Be like, I'm
Yeah,
following this. I'm following my map.
exactly. Whenever anyone asks where I'm going, I just show them the.
Right. You point to that one, you're like, that's
Totally.
there.
I mean, and that's also lifts off into like a cosmic world too, right? Like, like the star alignments and all the constellations, my work is like hugely based on properties of quantum physics and theoretical science, which is like my real passion. So a lot of that taps into that too. So it's like a lot of these works also is like, these are like a lot of later works. I had like this, I was like in an accident where I was in a coma for like months, and I was in the hospital for like a year, right? So like I was completely out of commission to not make any work for like, felt like forever, and like completely bedridden for like a whole half year, seasons changing, and like, I'm always on the go. So I think once I like, once I came out of the coma, which was like roughly 4 months, and then I was out of the hospital, which was another roughly 4 months, and then home for 3 months, kind of bedridden. I think that just kind of like, I don't know, it affected me in a way to kind of like delegate the work, the map, my life, my relationships, everything. I mean, trauma definitely will do that. And I had some pretty trippy times in my coma. So, and I remember it 1000%. Like, you know, so I was in there for like, you know, I guess like the span that I was, but it felt as though I was there for like years and years, right? So I remember all of this, like dying and rebirths within these like little cosmic worlds. I can remember the way things smelled there, tasted. It's crazy. I mean, so that's like a whole other thing, right? Like, um, yeah. So that had a lot to do with a lot of the work that you're seeing today, I guess.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about what was beyond for you?
Well, I mean, it's just that I remember. I think that recalling all the things that kind of happened, and not for anything, but the things that were happening in my coma state that I was relaying from like an outside world, right? That interjected into there that I later found out that my stories was going with other stories. So, I mean, just the worlds lived in there. Like, dude, I could tell you some of the like most extreme stories, but it was like
Go for it.
I was always, so like one story that's kind of like just one real quick thing about like how an outside world kind of interjected was just like at one point, I was in this world, right, where I was like in this top secret like hospital, and it was like super in the future or something, and it was like this whole orchestra and infrastructure was orchestrated for like solely my case, right? I was like the only patient, right? Patient zero or something. And like from there, it was like I remember waking up inside of like this place, knowing that like this is not a hospital. Like, where the hell am I, right? Like asking myself, where am I? So it's like almost like it felt like Inception. And then like somehow or another, like my mom like walks in, and then I just like feel like a crazy relief because naturally I'm not going to say like a mama's boy or anything, but my mom is like my best friend, right? I don't have any sort of like secrets or anything, so it's always like settling, you know. So I think, and then I'm guessing, you know, and then like when I'm in there, I remember like looking down the bed, and there's like green light everywhere from like data and computers. It's like a movie, right? And like so like I just remember looking down in the dream like coma world, and I had these like kind of metal gloves on, right? Like some like Resident Evil type metal gloves, right? And then so like months and months later, I found out that since I had both of my lungs collapsed and I broke all of my ribs. So I had a bunch of pipes and tubes helping me breathe. So when I was in my coma, I was actually trying to pull those out, like in my dream state or whatever. And my mom said when she was there, they actually put these like medical type gloves on my hand, right? So I was in the coma when that happened. And it's like, if you were to map that out and track it, it was probably the same time that like I was going through that. And there was like also the elections were going on. So this was 2016 August. I was in a coma like during the elections. So like when when I was in a coma, there's like a woman that's there. She's like in scrubs and stuff, but she's like not really like a nurse or anything. She's basically a babysitter that people in comas have, right? They just sit there, and in case anything happens, then they can get somebody. And I guess, you know, she just must have been watching the news with like all of this type stuff. So I had this one world that I lived in where I was like in a hospital that the hospital like right before my eyes turns into like the Republican Party convention, right? So then like I'm in my hospital room just sitting looking straight through the door, and it's just like it went from nurses and doctors to just people with suits on their phones. Like it was like hectic and analytical, and everyone's like going around crazy, right? And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, where am I? Like, what the fuck is going on? And then like, so then like, again, this sounds like a movie, but this is completely
No,
how it
no.
went down. So like, so like, so then doctors had come into my room, right? And then there was like two sets of doctors, and then there was like military doctors there as well. And like I was kind of like strapped down in this bed, and they were injecting me with like these huge needles, right? And like later, come to find out, it was like they were showing that there was like in this dream world I was in, that there was a like a some sort of antidote where Trump was using to try to strengthen his campaign by saying that combat, if civilians, American citizens in combat were to die, that this thing could like rejuvenate them, right? So his case was like not to lose so many casualties at war was one of his things. Um, and they had done that to me, and it was like I was like on like this big world like thing, right? And they were like doing that to me in there, right? So again, months later, I come out and find, because I shattered my hip. My
Shit.
hip was like sand. I fell 4 stories onto my side,
Holy
and
shit.
so like I shattered my hip and my pelvis, right? So I have like 120 titanium rods in my hip right now,
Wow.
and they vary from all sizes, like 2 inches to like 7 inches. But so when I got
Seems like you
out,
might need some titanium in your bust, you know, like as a
right, like a little one,
metaphorical, like I am the bus.
right? Like, but yeah. So I mean, and then when I got out, I had like a condition called like heterotopic asphyxiation, which meant that I had brain damage, they said, during my fall, and that my body was like telling itself to naturally repair, even though that it's already like medically all like you guys were talking about comic book repaired at this point. So yeah, it's been a journey. So that was kind of like all this work is like post all that crazy life. Sorry to go on a rant about that,
No,
but
I love it. I love
I
it.
mean,
I appreciate your
we
map.
we
I
were
appreciate
supposed to have transcribers, and because I'm not good for writing, but I mean, I remember it so well that we were trying to turn it into something um, documented or something. I mean, honestly, not for anything, but I have like neurophysicists, I have orthopedic surgeons. I mean, I had like, and another thing is like, I had like, I don't know, 14 pints of blood transfusions and plasma and tissue infusions. And people really believe that taking in that, like, those elements from someone else's living body, like can activate, and I'm already in a coma, you know? So it was like, maybe I was like tapping into other people's worlds that were like donors of what I was getting, you know? So again, being into theoretical and the quantum world, it all is relative to me. It makes me feel very safe that uh, everything out here is like there's stuff way beyond, and I'm cool to live like every day knowing that, I guess.
Wow. Does it make you ever think about like what you have around you while you dream or like the environment that's around you?
No, it's crazy because I haven't really. I mean, I may have had one or two, but I didn't dream for like the whole year after the coma, you know. But it was like I was asleep for months, so it's like I don't know. Maybe all my REM and everything was just like tapped out. I don't know, because yeah, you know when you have a dream for 30 seconds, but it was really like they say a few hours or some shit. It's like I was out for like a short time, but I lived in this place for like 7 years. I mean, I got out of it. I felt 7 years older. I felt 7 years smarter, right? So it's like it just it's next level, I guess. So
Sounds like you slow down to another degree to really like be
yeah, totally.
present.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's too crazy not to like look into it more and to try to like understand and have a sort of like mind that's not so like mainstreamed and targeted. I do nothing that's like my life is completely my own, I guess. I kind of like I just kind of do like what I need to do, right? So I guess it's a saying I stay in my own lane, pretty much. It's the easiest way to do things, I guess.
What does that mean for you?
I guess it means like, I don't know. I used to get caught up in stuff, right?
Like what?
So
Like what are we
I don't
talking?
know.
I mean, if you
I
don't
get
mind me, what?
no, no. I mean, I guess it's just like, New York City, right? Like, I'm not a native of New York. I'm not from here, but like even 5, 6 years ago was like a whole different world, right? So there's a lot more things going on, like bopping around. I'm getting older, I guess. Staying in your own lane, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I feel like when you get older, you're only forced to, right? You can't like go to the clubs anymore. You can't be like be out in the clubs and doing all that or whatever. You have to kind of like simplify a little bit. And it's just the best way to get stuff done, especially being an artist. Like that was my reason, not to say that I've kind of gotten any sort of notoriety or those kind of things, but I feel like I've pushed a little harder in the last like 10 years. But I've been painting, right? So it's like I've always done it. But it wasn't through my whole teens and 20s. It was like I didn't, it seemed like I was doing other things. I wasn't prioritizing, I guess. And that may not come with age. That might just be me, but it was just now it's like, the last like 4 or 5 years, 6, 7 years, it's like kind of more mainstream, mainline. It's more respectful that way to everybody, right? Because then you don't have no qualms about what everyone else is doing. I mean, you can be an observer, but you also don't have to like, you don't have to like put out no energy that's not needed to anyone else. So, I mean, it's good. Also let you like tap into like more of yourself, which is always a plus.
Hmm.
Personally, for me. Whoa, that's crazy. Man, that's a pretty one of a kind. I painted that actually when we used to live in Chelsea. That was in 2009 also when I was back in New York from Copenhagen on vacation. Actually painting that the night of that my favorite uncle, my mom's brother passed away. Or so that was kind of like that whole kind of feel. It was like, yeah. So it has like a very like, even the colors are, and then just the flow is just very kind of somber, right? Like, yeah, that was like a dedication definitely to a transcend, you know. It's like my mom's one of 10 kids. I have 7 uncles. So, but like on that side and just on that side, but that was like one of my favorite uncles, right? Not to pedestal people, but I can say that he was like my favorite, right? But yeah, I like that work. I actually don't know where that painting is, do we? The red one. So we think it's in storage, but I hope it's in storage. So MIA on that one.
Do you keep a storage locker there in New York City with your paintings, or like elsewhere?
No, I just have like super good friends of extra space. I mean, I have paintings all over, but luckily, like some people just have them in their house. So if it's cool, like I have friends that like if it's something sold, I just walk over and like they be understanding that it's coming off the wall, right? But for that time, it's not sitting in somewhere crazy. It's still like hanging. I've got work in like restaurants and stuff where I didn't get paid for it. It's still sitting there. Maybe someone buys it, but also maybe I can go in the restaurant and get free food. Like, so, I mean, it's everywhere. Just seeing as that
How
I'm
do
like,
you work that out? How do you work those deals out with the restaurants? Like, what are your
well, remember I said I was a chef for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I cook actively 8 of those here, or I guess roughly like 6.5, 7 here. So like, I don't know. I mean, I guess restaurants are it's pretty much the same in a weird way. Like I know the industry very well as much as I know art. Both are the same. Not that I know either one awesome, but for what I know them equal. I just did it for a long time, and proper chef, you know, proper restaurants, French trained, working with like fine dining, high volume. So yeah, with a lot of great chefs. So, you know, I think it was just a natural transition, especially in Denmark where I was, because they have a, you know, Europe has like a little more special appreciation for the everyday artwork, if I will. Like here, it's more like, I guess, gallery studio. There in Europe, anyway, I mean, you can pretty much find it like fine art anywhere, I guess, in a way.
How does that make you feel being back in the States? Does that make you want to change anything, or like?
No, I mean, it definitely like helps with a lot of it helps with everything. I mean, just the palette. When I first got to Copenhagen, it's probably one of the most beautiful places like that I've personally been to. Architecturally, the colors, the vibe, like the water. So it was a huge change for me. So coming back, I was super excited to like kind of be in Europe for 1 year. I mean, that's like a dream shit when I was like a teenager, like 16, like I'm gonna go to Europe one day and have a studio, you know? Like nonetheless already coming from New York, which was also kind of a dream. I'm from West Virginia, like I'm a country kid born and raised. I mean, I left when I was like 16, but I'm like that's where my family's from and that's where like my heart is, I guess. But I've never, you know, I've been out here ever since. So coming back from Europe was it was great. I was ready to like, you know, turn a new leaf, I guess, in a way. Oh, that painting is pretty cool. See how it looks like really different, right? It's more like not as defined and kind of like seems so set in. That's I painted that. That is actually like a 6 by 5 foot painting, and that was actually painted outside back in the mountains in West Virginia where I'm from. By the river, actually, if you can tell by like the color palette. I live off of the Greenbrier River, off the Appalachian Trail. Actually, it runs like 250 miles through like right where I live in the Greenbrier Valley.
Oh, I love the
Uh,
Greenbrier Valley.
yeah, that's my home, man. So,
Lewis, I love Lewisburg. That's my.
Lewis, that's where I live, dude. That's
Oh
where my
yeah.
family lives in
Oh,
Lewisburg,
for
dude.
real?
This guy's talking about Lewisburg.
I've been
Oh,
there. I got some
it's
family down
well,
there.
you know what?
I love it
You're
there.
from Pennsylvania, right? So it's like hand
I'm
in
in
hand
Pittsburgh.
almost.
hmm
Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh is like the closest thing you can get to West Virginia. With like, you know, it was we navigated the fossil fuel with the coal, and then you guys industrialized everything. So it's like there's always that natural kind of connection there. And a lot of people from Pennsylvania go to Morgantown, WVU. It's crazy.
hmm Yeah, and Pittsburgh is like that halfway in between New York City and
New
West
York and
Virginia.
yeah, definitely. I would agree. But yeah, I painted that outside. So like usually I use a lot of the backing, but that's all like just like strung up on 2 trees right by the river, you know. And I actually had my brother um holding a piece of wood on the back while I painted on the front, which big shout out to him. That was cool. But yeah, that was a fun day. Being on the river making that painting. Yeah.
I mean, I was just about to say, I was like, I see those, like, I feel that those trees on that river, like,
Yeah, I mean something.
I lost the GoPro right near Surprise Rapids.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if
Wow.
you know
Yeah.
where that is. It's right on that, right on
Yeah, I
Surprise.
do in
I
the
was
new
like
in the new
doing a little
river.
canoeing, and then it was Aaron and Aaron's Great Adventure. I was going down the rapids with another Aaron, and all of a sudden,
Aaron and
like
Aaron.
Aaron and Aaron's adventure down the
No,
river.
that's pretty great. Yeah.
And then it flipped right at Surprise Rapids, and then all of a sudden my GoPro goes out, and I'm just like wandering on the all the trailer parks, knocking on doors, be like, you see my GoPro?
Right. Yeah, people don't realize, but West Virginia is actually like one of the better places, definitely on the east coast of the country for whitewater rafting. I mean, people travel from everywhere, like the New River Gorge and like Harper's Ferry and stuff, a little more outside of the country, outside of the county I live in, which is Greenbrier. So like Summers County and then through on. It's pretty, yeah, let's just say like it's a great place, but it's just like it has its flaws.
Yeah, I've heard there's some good caverns around there.
Yeah, I mean, where I live is like Lost World Caverns. I grew up going there. Like, it's like 6 miles down. There's also there's Lost World. There's Luray Caverns. There's a bone cave. We have tons of caves. So
What?
that's a lot of stuff I did like growing up as a kid when I was like 12 or 10, like going into caves all day and like pulling around, right? So
You
like,
ever paint on some cave walls?
no, I never have because it's actually, I mean, it's actually a super huge like illegal activity to do where I'm from. And I guess it's just like it just feels wrong. Maybe an etching, but like a painting. I mean, these caves are like outdate any sort of like time that we have, right?
Right.
And all the caves that are in my area are very like very like they were here for like the big Native American battles. I won't speak of what it was because I don't recall, but and
Right.
also the Civil War, like they were actual bunkers and shit for like the Civil War because where I live in the most southern part of West Virginia is where the secession happened in 1864 during the Civil War. So like I can go on a mountain range, I can walk out of my back door 3 miles up on a mountain range, throw a stone to Virginia. You know, that's how close it is. So um, yeah. West Virginia,
Yeah.
Mountain Mama.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a good place. I love.
Oh my God.
There we go. Back. I'm back. People trying to call.
No worries.
Uh,
Oh, cool. That one's cool. That was like a first like try with see, you know how like those like you see those like weird like spider type. Sorry, I'm trying to reorganize myself.
oh, I understand.
Um those like the crazy lines, a lot of that came from also because I was working against this very like non it was like a super like crappy wall, right? And I was like kind of bummed out that like one of the full walls was like really shitty. But then I started painting on it. And then like then it became like almost print like making prints almost. So all those like cool little jagged things are actually like prints from the wall, you know, from the pressure and it worked out well because it's nice to have something to like kind of throw at you even though you're not really wanting it to because obviously it's how you can find discoveries and try to check out, you know, what's next for the work. So yeah, that was cool. And it was like one of the very few times I've used a yellow. I think I've only had like 2 yellow paintings in archive, so it's always like, yeah, very
And
special.
interesting. So, is it mostly acrylic with some spray paint in some of them, or like what?
Yeah, I mean those all the ones from Copenhagen are like they're just mainly acrylic paints and spray paint. Yeah, nothing else. Yeah, like that one. Yeah, that one's pretty crazy. A good friend of mine has that, man, and I kind of miss that one. Every time I see it, I just have a little like thing in my chest about it. But it's in a good home. Actually, the owner, CEO of Adorno Design, based out of Copenhagen but global. The owner actually has that, which is pretty cool. Um, and but yeah, I really like that work a lot. There's just like crazy layers. It's a and so like this work's a perfect example of like you know people always say like in abstract and stuff they want to try to find a. I think Copenhagen was the first time in the work where I was actually kind of like trying to find imagery and then hone in and kind of just manipulate it, not take it out of like its natural form, but so like on this one it's just kind of like what you see, right? Like you see a figure kind of there, right? Like you have like kind of the head there in the middle and then like two lineage of the arms and it's like you know I think things like that are fun and they really catch people's eye because it again pros and cons to abstract is like you know you if you kind of have it's hard to explain. So if you to get in a more figurative kind of like point. So that's where these works were going, to kind of try to take my natural process and like have like a viewer kind of get like something that's not really there, but is there, but it's not really there. So, yeah, definitely that one's a very, very cool painting. I love that one.
Do some rapid fire here.
Right. All right, cool. That one is very cool. I love that one. That one's actually in brand new university library at Temple University. It's called the James Library. If you're ever in Philadelphia, go to the new Charles Library. And that was bought by a buyer, Susanna Gold. And yeah, it's in a forever home. Brand new Sonetta. It's a design company. They built the Charles Library. So that painting will definitely outlive me, which is super awesome. And that's the whole point. So that's super nice. That one's, I like that. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that one again is more theory, just testing. You know, that was that layer trying to figure like a formidable type technique. Oh, that one's sweet. That one is again spray painting. That one's huge. See, these paintings right here are like very big. That's like 10 by 12 feet. So they're very, very large, and I just loved working with those and like layering up and trying to like kind of take some negative space and, you know, put a lot of layer there, just trying to make depth. This one again, back to the figurative manipulation. If you look at this one, it's called like the priest, right? So in a turn, there's a guy in a white robe right there with his head shooting back, right? So ideally, you know, if that's the first thing I seen once I was like contemplating the piece. So then I go in and I just use the technique that's already seemingly an accident-prone technique, but it's dialed in for me. It's all pretty strategic. Everyone, yeah. Yeah, same thing. Just trying to, you know, figurative. If you see, it's like a technique. All these paintings, by the way, are like 98% of the paintings are just painted by layering paint onto another small canvas that's this big, and then applying that layered paint onto the canvas. So none of like that one's like no brush stroke at all, no knives, no anything, just that one canvas.
So you're putting it on a small canvas and applying that to a larger canvas?
Yeah. So now it's crazy because the ones that I made all that whole year in 2019, I made all the paintings with the same canvas, right? I still have it. It's like it weighs like almost like 40 pounds because and the edges are like crazy off the side because I use the same one, you know, every day, all day. So it's like that's pretty special to me. That technique was really fun and discovery too. Like I really the sliding of paint and moving, it's like nothing new, but the first application is what I was trying to hone in on technique wise. The size of that one is like that one's right at like 6 feet by 6 feet too. So 2 by 2 meters framed. It can always be smaller once you pull it in to be framed. So yeah, someone just asked down there, so I thought I'd throw that out there. Same series, same place, Copenhagen. Pretty much same story, just kind of like more of color theory, trying to like learn to mix a little color and see what I can come up with that one. Yeah, this one is, man, I love this one, and I have a hard time letting it go. I've had an offer or two, but I just kind of like feel like I want to keep it for, you know, just kind of for our archive kind of thing. Because I'm about to like go on a journey where I'm building like a 12 by 12 tomb, and I'm gonna bury a bunch of archived work and a lot of like personal possessions, and then hopefully, you know, we forget about it for like 100 years and just, I don't know. I'm really into like ruins and old things and the sense of like discovery in art, like, doesn't always need to be for sale or for show at this time and age. Maybe, when my kids are old or something, who knows?
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's what we've got.
Cool. Awesome.
That's what we've got. So someone asked, who asked? We've got JOACH.
Oh, Yakum.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell
He's
the
asking
story.
about Pink Dreams.
Mm-hmm.
This is I think he's referring to, they actually purchased this painting. We don't have a photo of it right now to put on here, I don't think. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I think that painting was like pretty special just because they were expecting they just had a kid, right? And so I think it just kind of went along with that. And it was just like, it's one of the special moments, I guess. Just like meeting collectors, meeting people through that. I actually worked with his wife on the culinary side of my job in Copenhagen. So we started talking, and kind of like in those aspects, I kind of don't like really talk too much about art, I guess, in the culinary world, and then vice versa. So like, yeah, I guess that's kind of how that all came about. And then we met and we delegated. It was naturally for someone pretty special. And, sometimes things just have a little more like calling for, certain person and like story or whatnot and time. So yeah, it's an awesome painting. It's one of the only where I've actually, if you see, everything's a downstroke, right? So in my work, everything's up and down, kind of binary, like, little like matrixy, whatever kind of thing. So this one actually was first of like cutting back across on a vertical level, or horizontal rather. So that's also a very special one. And Joachim, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Cool. So before we go,
Mm-hmm.
I'm Aaron Jack. You can find me at Aaron Jack Line Art. And where can people find you?
Here, Instagram, John X Black. And that's usually where I was trying to like find things on me, but when we like kind of, I guess, branded my name, the X, which is like, it stems from like old hardcore days when like hardcore, where it'd be always use an X instead of a space. I'm sure it's utilized in other things. But so yeah, anywhere you try to find it, it's usually that. But I have a website as well, which is www.johnxblack.com. And majority of those paintings are on there that are available. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Instagram's the best way. I also have an additional Instagram. If you are curious about the studio build and the bus Instagram is MCLIV_studio. And yeah, that's where I post all about the bus. I don't really post the bus on my personal or like my personal Instagram page. So I just have a separate for that. So, yeah, check me out one of those 3 places.
I understand. I've got like 5 myself.
Yeah. It gets a little crazy, but it's a must, you have to do it.
Right.
Right.
It's the bus. It's the must of the bus.
It is. It is.
Of the bus.
But
it's been so we're on Freedom Tapestry Project right now. You might later be seeing it different places. So
right.
That's the FYI. So before we leave today, go follow whoever you're not following up here or down below wherever you see the the links.
Yeah, it was great, man. I had a really good time. Naturally, I'm not really too of an audience kind of person. I feel like when I've had a few shows and I do the speeches, I'm not the greatest, but it was a comfortable situation. I appreciate that. Allowing me to rant. That's why I don't really go in public much, because I can't stop talking.
No, I think that's it's just like, it's the stories, you got to sit and listen to the stories. Otherwise, like, what's the point of asking,
sure. And when it comes to the work, I've never like expressed, I guess, too much on any sort of platform about my personal experiences and transcending into my work. I mean, I think people mostly just think it's like visually cool, but it actually is like so much more like dialed in and like, yeah, it's way more than just actually the visual outcome of it is like the least of my worries. So, yeah, I appreciate that.
You have any? My background's as a photographer and like portraiture, and so like I look at these kind of like portraits.
Yeah.
You know, since
Yeah.
I'm not going out photographing people, and
I actually checked a bunch out, man.
Oh yeah,
I kind of had to try to get a format so I could prepare myself.
Cool. Well, thank you. Thanks
Yeah.
for checking it out.
Yeah.
Because this is number 70 of this series.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Wow, how's that feel for you?
It feels wonderful. You know, like, I feel like I'm just like, I've gotten into it and I'm just really enjoying hearing people's stories and trying to like find my pace where I'm excited about it because I'm like so excited, but like how to not burn myself out. So,
Yeah.
And how to still like have focus on my own work while still like learning and being curious. So like finding that balance of focusing on others and giving other people space. Cause I think we each have our own platforms as it is now on media and how we share our platforms and lift each other up, I think is the most important thing we can do to help out, to create community, to create some better humanity. So I'm doing what I can do.
Dude, I think you're doing wonderful, and salute to you for even having the like conscious thought to think that in the first place, because that's what, you know, it's not what people like can or can't do, but it's just, I guess, that thought that is what would make things a lot better. So contribution to a positive and a better outlook is always like accepted.
Right. Well, I think about I've been working interviewing this jazz musician for the last 5.5 years until he passed away in May.
Oh wow.
At 72. So well, he's really 18 because he passed away right after his like birthday on leap year.
Leap year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He finally came of age.
Wow, what a special person. It's like I don't care who you are, like energy and like everything in the world cosmically. If you're born on leap year, you have to be special, right? Like it's just like it just doesn't even matter. Like I want to know about you, like or something, so I can try to see if you're celestial or something. It's kind of weird, right? But yeah, that's cool, man. I mean, and jazz on top of that must have been great.
Well, we got him back. I was like doing his media, photo, video, social media, and interviewing in the band and everything for years, and got him back up to number 3 in the jazz charts. So
shit. Excellent, man.
Yeah, he was back. He was there in the '80s, Richie Cole, and then brought him back brought him back year by year with the team, and
wow.
And so it was just like intense. And he always brought up, different people to play to play as part of his set, just people in. So it's just like, and I think that's one thing that really sticks with people is over the years is just inviting other people in to share their work and to share themselves with the community.
Sure.
And so, I don't know. I just thought about like, that's like one thing that kind of stuck with me is being able to invite others into like when we have the stage is to invite others in to share that stage and to share the best of others too. So
totally, man. I definitely agree with you on that 100%.
So as you go around the country,
I will, man. That's the goal, is to kind of like, just kind of enjoy the nature and people and random situations and I'm looking forward to that. It's my only foreseeable freedom, if you will, for me in my life presently, is to be moving around and creating. And yeah,
I love that life. I've been on the road for many months.
Yeah, man.
Traveling.
I feel like, I'm a practicing, if you will, minimalist as well. So, I mean, in my whole life, can fit in a travel bag and has for the last like 7 years. I don't have any possessions in my life that are like, I don't own a bed, I don't have a couch, I don't have any TVs, nightstand, and I don't that no home things. I got the bus now, so that's like it's good because I just want to develop some ownership of something where I could be. Not for any. Some people think I'm like I was freaking out, but it's now they don't understand the huge subculture, but it is a sense of like for me, I'm an outdoors person. I'm from the woods, so like it's only natural to get out there and check it out.
Right.
There's because,
Check it
dude,
out.
I mean, I've never even been in like Grand Canyon or stuff like that. It's like little stuff like that, redwoods, things like that. It's like you can knock all that out in kind of like one excursion. Why not? Um,
Right. And really
yeah,
be there, I think, is the other thing. Is it's sometimes
right.
hard, to really be, find
Yeah,
ways to really be in
because
those
because
different spaces.
because you need to get back because you got to get a car or like time restrictions. It's like no, like I pull up and then I'm there for 1 week somewhere just straight chilling in my van, like forced to be outside, forced to have to like work. I'm a big believer in work like all the time. Like I want to do like the smallest jobs to the biggest job if it's like kind of seeing it full through. Not afraid to get hands dirty and so yeah, I'm excited. So and then other things come off of that. It gets me reacclimated with cooking because I'll be doing like a lot of cooking on the road, hopefully formulating some sort of like guide or cookbook of like, ways to do things and how to cook on the road because it's a little bit of an untapped little thing. So it also opens up other major things.
I just did a really cool collab with a chef in Cleveland, actually, where he was making me ink and then I was painting with it.
Oh wow, squid
And
ink or something?
what? It was
Like squid ink
Sumi ink.
or oh,
So
okay, right.
so like he had like all of that like high end, like I don't know, that
Sure, right.
chef knowledge,
Right,
made the
right, right.
ink from scratch, and then he used a lot of the same ingredients in a dish, right? In a
Oh,
dish
okay.
that people came to my solo gallery show. I had a big solo gallery show in Youngstown, Ohio, a couple months back during this COVID thing, and people came in, they saw the art, and then they got to take the dish and finish prepping it at home. And the
Oh,
and
word.
the and this dish had the same sauce with a lot of the same ingredients the um as the
The
ink sauce.
piece.
Yeah, as the
Oh,
ink.
right. Oh, okay, okay,
So
okay.
the ink was like had a lot of the same ingredients as the sauce. It was like,
Oh, right, okay. It's like giving over and like kind of transcending into that.
yeah, transcending from like visual to taste to smell to like the
It's
music.
crazy. I mean, it's like kind of I mean, I've had a like proposal, proposition, whatever, manifest on like, it's actually like a really untapped kind of thing. I mean, now obviously more than ever, really, but like to have like a creative, like food and art really meet, right? Like a real meeting of like, imagine having a restaurant that's like, I don't know, like annually, right, changing. It changes the whole decor. It's like a show. All right. So
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, all these crazy things, but it actually hasn't really been like, there's always this like niche of like, artists that are always known to have gone to, restaurants and vice versa. Like restaurant people are always in galleries, but it never really like meshes. I did some things like that in Copenhagen as well, where I made like, for instance, I cooked a few dishes and then I did like limited one of 50. We had like a sold out restaurant and I made, um, each ticket person got like a menu and it had like an original painting on the back.
Mm.
So we kind of did that and it was like presented in a way and then I cooked the dish and I spoke like to a whole bunch of Danes, which is like really fun. But yeah, so little things like that. I mean, again, any restaurant thing is like a big capital risk, uh but yeah, there's small ways and I think the pop-ups are cool. I mean, I was doing like brunches where I was getting a lot of my old friends from restaurants together, featuring an artist, have people come through, eat, see people's work. It's all free. you know, I'm not taking nothing from anybody. I just like want to set it up and kind of try to like you were talking earlier, kind of like push, give back, with the resources you have, even if you don't have a platform. A lot of people that don't have a platform have tons of resources. Like I'm that kind of person. Like my platform's not like no one's going to be listening to what I have to say, really, right? Or be influenced by that. But at the same time, I could utilize resources to try to like facilitate. I guess it's more
I
of
mean, you've
something
got a
I'm interested.
platform, you've got Instagram. All of us
Right,
have
that's true.
platforms now. You know, you
That's
have an
very true.
audience of 3. It's 3 people who wouldn't see it otherwise, you know?
Very true. That is
Like,
very true.
you
It
know,
is
and
a way.
Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just think that's awesome, you know, and like this with Freedom Tapestry Project that we're on now, like with Ben and Samia, it's like a whole
Right.
thing. And, you know, everyone pulls their resources and, you know, produces, you know, with this one, there's like the back end and all of the different things. So
Sure. Yeah.
it's cool, you know, when people pull their resources and share the different pieces and we watch each other. I think it's you know, and connect. I
Right.
think that's beautiful, you know, finding ways to connect with other artists and to build together. You know, an
Right.
artist of different type. I mean that by like chefs and musicians and
Sure. Sure.
poets and
Creatives.
creatives, you know, if you create, you know,
Right. Yeah.
whatever, you know, be inspired in your interpretation.
Exactly. Well said. Well, yeah, definitely appreciate the time, man.
Cool.
I
So,
just have.
mhm.
What was it? Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I just wanted to let people know one more time before we go. And
Oh,
then
totally.
I, you know, let people know where we can find you, me, Freedom, and then we're gonna end on some words of inspiration. So,
All right.
where
Cool.
can people find you? One more
Uh,
time.
yeah, definitely on the Instagram at John X Black, and then definitely on my site johnxblack.com. And yeah, that's pretty much all the platforms that I'm on currently. I will be having a showing
Oh yeah.
in January starting. The show goes from January to June. It's a 6-month show. It's a lobby showing at 151 West 42nd Street. It's a Durst family building. It's an extreme building. It's super awesome. And so if you're ever in New York City and want to check it out, just walk in the lobby and they should be hanging up there. So I'm doing like a 10 paint series, 60 by 72, one large sculpture. So that's hence why I'm here in New York presently, is working on that show. And also doing studio visits. If you're in New York or surrounding area and want to pop in, see some stuff in person, just DM me here and we'll set it up. And thank you, Freedom Tapestry Project, for having me on. It was super great, and I appreciate you guys reaching out and let me, dive in a little bit and
Cool.
share.
Thank you. So I'm Aaron Jack. You can find me at Aaron Jack Line Art. I'm going to be interviewed Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern by Sandra Felly Art. And so that's the next thing that I've got. Next Tuesday, I've got at least one more artist that I'm going to be interviewing at Aaron Jack Line Art. And then, yeah, so follow me, follow John, and then follow Freedom Tapestry Project. And then would you like to end on some words of inspiration for
Words of
everybody?
inspiration.
Yeah, inspiration, wisdom, anything you want to share.
I would say what I always say. I would say, try to stay balanced, to stay safe. That's just kind of what I live by. And then I don't know. I guess the day is like the most important. So I always say nothing's more important than today. I don't think that anything. It helps to like just look and just realize that if you woke up today, I guess, and you're walking around, like you almost sort of can't really complain. Or like really, I mean, I know it's tough with the things going on, but someone always has it worse, I guess. And I've been at like the really lows and like some of the highs, so I guess like just enjoy the day, I guess, as much as you can. Or you can get I have a little puppy, which is also can be fun, but also can be a little hectic. But yeah, just treat people well. I guess the normal, which you should already be doing. What your mom told you when you were like 3 years old. So I don't know. Yeah, that's about it. I have.
Thank you.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you.
Totally.
All right. Well, I'll catch you next time.
Okay, cool.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me. All right,
Thanks.
see you.
Take care. Bye.